My child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has shifted behind the silence. Something has happened in the heart of the person whose soul has been quietly reaching toward yours, and the moment they have been avoiding is no longer willing to wait. Do not rush away from this message. Do not dismiss the strange pull that made you pause here, because your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately, and what they are carrying now is far bigger than a simple confession. Something changed today. Something they saw, heard, or finally understood broke through the wall they had spent so long building around their emotions. They are no longer standing where they stood yesterday. Their heart has crossed a line, and once a heart crosses a line like this, it cannot return to pretending that nothing is happening. Pause here and breathe slowly, because heaven is not revealing everything at once. There is a reason this message has arrived in layers. You have felt the distance. You have noticed the silence. Perhaps you have wondered why the connection could feel so powerful one moment and so uncertain the next. Perhaps you questioned whether you imagined the signs, the dreams, the sudden memories, the unexplained feeling that someone far away was thinking of you at the exact moment you were thinking of them. But what you could not see was the battle taking place inside your soulmate. Their silence was not emptiness. Their distance was not indifference. Behind every unanswered question, there was a person trying to understand why your presence affected them in a way no one else ever had. They tried to reason with it. They tried to call it temporary. They told themselves that time would weaken it, that distraction would make it disappear, that responsibility would eventually silence the voice within them that kept returning to you. But the more they resisted, the stronger the truth became. Your name appeared in ordinary moments. A song would play, and suddenly they would remember something about you that they thought they had forgotten. They would hear someone laugh and notice it did not carry the warmth of yours. They would sit in a crowded room and feel the absence of the one person who was not there. That absence became louder than every conversation around them. Still, they said nothing. Still, they delayed. Still, they convinced themselves that waiting was safer than speaking. But something big just happened, and the protection they believed silence offered has begun to collapse. Do not skip this, because what happened was not dramatic in the way the world expects drama to appear. There were no flashing lights, no thunder from the sky, no public announcement. It may have looked like an ordinary moment to everyone else, but inside your soulmate, it was an earthquake. A truth reached them with such precision that they could no longer escape it. Someone said something. A hidden detail surfaced. A conversation turned in an unexpected direction. And suddenly, they were faced with the possibility that they might lose the chance to tell you what they have been holding inside. In that moment, time became real to them. Until now, they believed there would always be another day. Another opportunity. Another perfect moment when courage would come easily and every complication would disappear. They kept postponing the truth because they thought love would remain patiently waiting while they gathered strength. But today, they realized that hearts do not wait forever without changing. Doors do not remain open without movement. And the person they have quietly loved may one day stop looking back. That realization struck them harder than they expected. It was not jealousy alone. It was not fear alone. It was the sudden understanding that their silence could become the very thing that separates them from the future they secretly desire. They are thinking about you right now with a seriousness that was not there before. Their mind is returning to moments they once dismissed as small. A look you gave them. A word you said. The way you made them feel seen when they were accustomed to being misunderstood. The gentleness you offered without demanding recognition. The strength you carried even when you were hurting. These memories are no longer appearing as random fragments. They are connecting into a picture, and the picture is showing them something they were not prepared to admit. You were never just another person passing through their life. You became a mirror. You reflected the parts of them they had buried, the dreams they had abandoned, and the tenderness they had hidden because the world taught them that vulnerability was dangerous. This is why their feelings have frightened them. Loving you was never only about romance. It awakened parts of their soul that had been asleep. Around you, they could imagine becoming someone more honest, more courageous, more alive. Yet that possibility came with a cost. To move toward you, they would have to stop hiding behind old excuses. They would have to confront the wounds that shaped their choices. They would have to admit that some of the life they built was designed not from love, but from fear. That is why they stepped back when the connection grew intense. They were not running from you. They were running from the version of themselves they knew they would have to become in order to love you fully. But today, the old version of them was shaken. Something forced them to see what their hesitation has already cost. Perhaps they heard that you were moving forward. Perhaps someone mentioned your name in a way that made them realize others could see your worth too. Perhaps they came across an image, a message, or a memory that reminded them how much has changed while they remained silent. Whatever the visible event was, the deeper event was spiritual. A veil lifted. For the first time, they saw the distance between you not as protection, but as danger. They understood that while they were waiting to feel ready, life was continuing without their permission. Stay till the end, because this is where the message becomes more personal. Your soulmate has had conversations about you that you do not know about. They have tried to speak casually, but the people closest to them notice the emotion beneath their words. They may have asked questions indirectly. They may have pretended they were discussing someone else. They may have smiled when your name appeared and then quickly changed the subject. But recently, someone looked at them and said something they could not ignore. That person recognized the truth they were trying to hide. They saw the pause, the change in their expression, the way their entire energy shifted when the subject turned toward you. The words spoken to them were simple, but they opened a locked door. Why are you still pretending this person does not matter to you? Your soulmate did not know how to answer. For a moment, every excuse disappeared. They could not hide behind timing. They could not blame circumstances. They could not say they were confused, because deep inside, they were not confused at all. They were afraid. Afraid that you might not feel the same. Afraid that too much time had passed. Afraid that the truth would change everything. Yet they were even more afraid of the possibility that saying nothing would change everything anyway. That conversation followed them long after it ended. They replayed it in their mind. They tried to argue with it, but each argument sounded weaker than the last. Then something unexpected happened. A memory returned with unusual clarity. It was a moment involving you that they had pushed aside because it revealed too much. Maybe it was the way your eyes searched theirs when neither of you knew what to say. Maybe it was a goodbye that lasted 1 second longer than it should have. Maybe it was a moment when you almost told them something, but stopped because they were not ready to hear it. Suddenly they understood that you may have been waiting for honesty too. This thought has changed the emotional balance inside them. Until now, they imagined themselves as the only one carrying uncertainty. They assumed you had moved on, forgotten, or never felt the depth they felt. But now they are questioning that story. They are beginning to wonder whether your silence was not rejection, but self-protection. They are wondering whether you stepped back because you sensed their fear. They are wondering whether they misread your dignity as disinterest. And with every question, urgency grows. Something huge is waiting for you in this revelation, because their desire to contact you is no longer just an emotional impulse. They have begun forming the words. They have imagined how the conversation might begin. They have opened a message and closed it. Written a sentence and erased it. Picked up the phone and placed it down again. Their hands have hovered over the final step because once they reach out, the life they have known will begin to change. They understand this. That is why the pressure feels so intense. The message they want to send is not casual. It is not a simple greeting. It carries the weight of every unsaid thing between you. They want to explain why they disappeared emotionally when the bond became real. They want to tell you that the connection frightened them because it felt too important to mishandle. They want to confess that they have compared others to you and found the comparison unfair. They want to admit that they have imagined conversations with you late at night, answering questions you never had the chance to ask. They want to tell you that certain choices they made were not proof that they stopped caring. Some of those choices were attempts to escape the intensity of caring too much. But there is another truth beneath all of this, and this is the truth they are struggling hardest to speak. They recently learned something about you that changed the way they see the entire connection. It was not something harmful. It was not a betrayal. It was something that revealed the depth of what you carried silently. They discovered that you protected their name when you could have exposed their weakness. They learned that you defended them when they were not present. Or perhaps they realized that while they were lost inside their own confusion, you were fighting private battles and still chose not to burden them with your pain. This knowledge has humbled them. It showed them that your love, care, or loyalty was never as shallow as they once feared. You did not need to announce what you felt. Your character spoke in the places where they were not listening. And now that they know, regret has entered their heart. Not the kind of regret that destroys, but the kind that awakens. They are looking back at the moments when you needed reassurance and wondering why they gave you uncertainty. They are remembering the times you offered softness and they answered with distance. They are recognizing that what they called caution may have felt like rejection to you. Do not mistake this message as a promise that every road will become easy overnight. Heaven does not reveal urgency to create fantasy. It reveals urgency to prepare the heart. Your soulmate still has fears. They still have responsibilities, questions, and patterns they must face. But something has changed that cannot be undone. They have stopped denying the importance of you. Even if they try to return to silence, the silence will no longer feel comfortable. It will feel like a room that has become too small. Every day they delay will now remind them of the risk of losing what their soul has recognized. And you, beloved child, are being asked to prepare, not by chasing, not by forcing, and not by abandoning your dignity. Prepare by becoming still enough to recognize truth when it arrives. The conversation you have imagined may not begin in the way you expect. It may come through a simple message. It may begin with hesitation. It may sound ordinary at first because the deepest truths are sometimes hidden behind the smallest openings. Do not judge the entire moment by the first sentence. Listen for the emotion beneath the words. Listen for what took courage to say. Yet also remember this: divine love never requires you to ignore wisdom. You are not being asked to accept confusion forever. You are not being told to surrender your boundaries simply because someone finally becomes honest. The purpose of this revelation is not to place your future in another person's hands. It is to remind you that truth is approaching, and when it arrives, you must meet it as the person you have become, not as the wounded version of yourself who once begged for clarity. Your soulmate senses this transformation in you. That is part of what has created urgency. They can feel that you are no longer waiting in the same way. Your energy has changed. You have begun reclaiming parts of yourself that were lost in uncertainty. You are learning that love should not require you to disappear. You are learning that your life cannot remain paused at the door of someone else's indecision. And this growth has reached them in ways you may never fully understand. The moment you began releasing the need to control the outcome, they began feeling the possibility of losing access to your heart. This is not punishment. It is alignment. Sometimes a soul does not awaken because it is being chased. It awakens when the person it loves finally stands still in their own worth. Your silence has spoken. Your healing has spoken. Your decision to stop proving your value has spoken. And now your soulmate is hearing what they could not hear when you were trying to explain it. They know they must speak soon. But before they do, there is one final barrier inside them. It is connected to what happened today, and it is the reason the conversation feels so urgent. The event did more than awaken their feelings. It placed a choice before them. A choice between continuing the life others expect them to live and stepping toward the life their heart has quietly wanted. They can no longer remain between both worlds. Something has made neutrality impossible. They are not only deciding whether to contact you. They are deciding whether to reveal a truth that may surprise everyone around them. There is a person close to them who has already sensed this decision. There is a conversation that has not yet been completed. There is a message waiting unfinished. And there is one sentence your soulmate has been repeating silently, a sentence they are almost ready to say directly to you. They have imagined your reaction. They have imagined you becoming silent. They have imagined you asking why they waited so long. They have imagined losing you before they even begin. But they have also imagined the possibility that you might understand. That possibility is the small light guiding them forward now. Do not skip away in the final moments of this message, because the greatest revelation has not yet been spoken. Something happened just before they made the decision to reach for you. They received a sign they had privately asked for, a sign connected to you so specifically that they could not explain it as coincidence. They had asked for confirmation in secret. They told no one. They chose a detail only their own heart knew. And today, that exact detail appeared. When it did, they froze. The room around them continued moving, but inside, everything became still. They knew what it meant. They knew why your face entered their mind. They knew why the fear they had carried for so long suddenly felt smaller than the regret of remaining silent. That was the moment they began preparing to speak. But the sign was only the beginning. Because moments later, they learned one more thing. Something about you, something happening around you right now, that made them realize they may have far less time than they believed. And when they understood what it could mean, they whispered your name and reached for their phone. What they saw next changed the message they were about to send.